Hey there! Welcome to Professor Purl, a YouTube channel about knitting. I'm Nicole and this is episode 29. You can find me as Prof Purl on Instagram and Ravelry. There's a Ravelry group for this channel. All of the things I'll talk about are linked below. So if you're new here, the channel is Professor Purl because I'm a math education professor. I live in the Pacific Northwest of the United States in Oregon, such a beautiful state. And yeah, knitting is just a way for me to de-stress and have joy, and I love sharing that here on this channel. So today I'm wearing the Chunky Souffle by Laura of Penrose Knits. This was a test knit last year, maybe in April or May, I don't recall. And it's been really cold here, and like right now it's in the 30s, 36 degrees Fahrenheit. It's, if you're in other parts of the United States, it's like winter, but it doesn't usually get very like cold or frigid feeling here in the Pacific Northwest, and it is. And so this sweater's been so nice to wear lately because it's a chunky yarn. I knit it out of Wonderlust from Knit Picks Held Double. And so it's just a really soft, cozy sweater. The yarn is like a blown-in yarn, and one of those yarns that kind of can morph and gauge. So yeah, it worked really well holding it double. You can hardly tell I held it double. And it's got these fun, I love sleeves like this that have like the little balloon. So yeah, I'm nice and cozy today and ready to talk about some knitting. Before I hop into finished objects, let me talk about the winner. I don't like to save it to the end. So last week, or not last week, I try to put out a podcast every 2 weeks. There was a giveaway for this beautiful yarn from the Bitten Mitten. And I'm going to also include some stitch markers and things like that. And so the giveaway winner is Tamy Banker. And hopefully I'll put Tamy's comment in here. So Tamy first found the podcast, she said, when my husband Kyle, who also knits, we shared like all of our single socks, and she said that her favorite finished object of 2022 is the Joji Locatelli Lace and Fade. I have not made one of these, but I love looking at people's lace and fades. It seems like I love mohair, and yeah, I love an oversized sweater, so it feels like a sweater I should be knitting. It looks a really fun sweater. So anyway, Tamy, just email me, Instagram message me. All the contact information is below in the description bar, and I'll send this your way. I was hoping that I would have like lots of finished objects, particularly socks today, but you'll see why I don't. But I do have one finished object, which is these rainbow socks. This was a 12-day self-striping, like 12 days of Christmas advent from Zebra Yarns, and it came all wound up already, which was really nice. And it also came into 2 little balls. So I knit my socks one at a time because I was running out of needles and traveling, but like if I was home, I would have had 2 separate needles and it would have been great. And it also came with like an extra yarn for these to do whatever you want with. I love the speckle, so I did the cuffs and the heel and the toes with it. And to me, socks don't feel like they're totally finished until I block them. You don't have to block your socks. You can just put them on your feet if you want. But like I love that like feeling of like blocking my socks, like folding them up, and I like treasure them. And sometimes I don't wear them right away because I don't know, I just love the crispness of them. I love these so much. So yeah, I'm really proud. I did a cut and heel, which I love to do for stripes. Okay, so I have a funny story about finishing these heels. well, maybe not funny, more like a cute story. So last week I had to fly to Ohio for my work, my job, and because I didn't book my flight, somebody else did. You can't complain, but like I was in the back of the plane, like probably like the worst seats, like the back of the plane. And yeah, so pros to that is that there was like a line of people waiting for the restroom, and lots of people were talking to me about my knitting. And I love talking about knitting, and I met quite a few knitters on the plane. So that was fun. And one of the knitters that was in line for the bathroom was like obviously a serious knitter, because she said to me, "What kind of heel are you doing?" And I was like, "Okay." And I said, "Oh, I'm doing a cut-in heel." And then she was saying that she puts in like waste yarn, which is another form of doing like a cut-in heel. When you put in the waste yarn in advance, I like to call that like a forethought heel, because you're like thinking about like where you're going to put your heel in. When I knit these, I just knit a tube and then I measure later and I think, where do I want to put my heel? And that's why I call it an afterthought heel. And I just essentially do exactly what I do for my toe for my heel. Exactly. Maybe the only difference being I pick up an extra stitch in the middle here so to avoid gaps and like closing. Yeah, and so we were chatting about heels, and then when she saw my sock and like I was literally cutting in the heel and like putting it in, she was like, "Oh, that's what the grocery girls do. Do you watch the grocery, or do you know who the grocery girls are?" And I was like, "Do I know who the grocery girls are?" Yes, I love watching their podcasts. Like they're like one of the first YouTube channels. My mom and I both love watching the grocery girls. So it's like a fun, way to like, I guess, bond, like talk about, like you might talk about like a TV show or something. Like I love it. And so, yeah, so me and my friendly neighbor on the plane, we're chatting about heels and the grocery girls. And of course I was like, I have a podcast, Professor Purl, and I plug it. But now I don't remember her name. And so anyway, if you're watching this, hi. We were both flying back to Portland. So I should have asked you if you're going to the Rose City Yarn Crawl. And so let me know if you're watching this. Okay, while I'm talking about zebra yarns, like I have to talk a little bit more about it. Just one thing I wanted to say is everybody has like a favorite base or a favorite something. For me, Anna's base for socks is my favorite because it's soft, but it's not like, it's a little toothy, so that like normally one of the reasons why I don't like 75-25 as a base is that it's just too soft and it feels like my sock's gonna wear out. But that is not the case for this base. And just, it makes like a really nice sock. And I love like the fabric I get. So I wanted to show you my zebra yarns collection. Okay, so I'm going to show you 4 of my zebra yarns in my collection. Not the ones I've knit up, just like what needs to be knit. So the first zebra yarns in my collection is this really fun kind of this Halloween one. Now I do have socks in this yarn and Matilda does too, that match, but I have it myself. My mom made me socks in this, but I also have this, so I can knit more socks or something else. Yeah, this is called Pumpkin Purple Monster. I love this one so much. It's so bright. I think like, imagine the sweater and me wearing these socks. It would be so good. And this one's called Hippie Bus. Okay, I showed this one last podcast, but just in case you didn't see it, this one's a custom colorway and she'll do this for anybody. So I got this for Christmas. My mom emailed Anna, and so it's a custom. My favorite color is pink. Matilda's favorite color is purple. My second favorite color is yellow. So yeah, that's amazing. All right, and my last yarn that I love this one too. This one is Over the Hill Confetti Cheerleader. Like I don't even understand that reference, but I love it. Okay, so here's my zebra yarn collection. So I really want to cast on another one. And so I'm going to on February 14th, which is Valentine's Day. So that my Valentine's Day treat is going to be to cast one of these on. I'd love your opinion. I'm not gonna do the Halloween one. I'm gonna save that. I'm torn between one of these two. I messaged Anna this like weeks ago and she was no help. So what would you cast on for Valentine's Day? This looks like iconic Valentine's Day to me, like ready to cast on. And like, I love hot pink, but this is also, you know, it's got pink too. And I don't know. I can't decide. Let me know. Okay. That's my collection. And you're going to get an opportunity to start collecting zebra yarn if you want too. So Anna mailed this to me for a giveaway. I'm so excited. It's like black and gray with like a little natural mini. And then look at this little zebra progress keeper. So fun. Okay, so So any comment will enter you below for this prize. However, if you need a prompt, here's a prompt. I'm very curious about when you're knitting a self-striping, what your favorite heel is. So for years I've said my favorite heel was a heel flap and gusset, and I do feel that way. I love a heel flap and gusset. And I have it going on some of my socks now. But I have noticed recently that I've been doing a lot of cut-in heels. My last sock design had a cut-in heel. These are cut in. My next one is going to be cut in. And I think I'm drawn to it because it's very easy. Like, it's super easy and it feels quicker to me. It could be mental, but it feels quicker. And I also like it because it doesn't break up the sock, break up the stripes. So there's no right answers here. Like, we can all like whatever heel we want. So I'd love to know what your favorite heel is, or if you have a very favorite heel specific to self-striping. If you've never knit a pair of socks and this would be your first like self-striping sock yarn, or your first time knitting socks, I'm curious, like, what are you wanting to start with? I'm just curious about that. So those are some prompts if you're interested. I think that this is like a 50 gram skein instead of a 100 gram skein based on the way it feels. And I have to say, I'm really into that idea lately because I love having no waste or leftovers. Like a pro to the Musselburgh hat is you get done and you knit the whole skein. There's like nothing left. And with this, the way this was dyed, like when you were done with this, there was no scraps. And I actually really like that, like that you can just like move on and feel done, not just with your project, but also your yarn. Like, it feels really good. And so I think this is really fun. So thank you, Anna, for donating that. All right, we are to the whips section of the episode, and I've worked on so much over the last 2 weeks, and I'm not going to show it all to you. But what I am going to show you is the ridiculous amount of test knits. Ridiculous amount of test knits. I'll just like pause for a moment and let you guess how many test knits I have going on right now. Maybe I should just start with a question rather than saying it was ridiculous. Okay. There's three. And it's like a little bit embarrassing that I'm knitting three test knits right now. You'll see. But here's the thing about me. I love a deadline. And it wasn't until these test knits that I really started to reflect about this. I just love a deadline. As a professor, like, we also do research and submit papers, and like, I live for a deadline. I love it. And this starts to kind of manifest itself, I guess, in my knitting too, is that it's like, Tessence, give me a deadline to finish, and I like it. Okay. So my first test knit is the Harvest Hues by Tamy Gore. And it is a shawl. And I'm not much of a shawl knitter, but I wanted to sign up for this because it used 3 colors of worsted weight yarn, and I had that in my stash. And, well, what I had in my stash was a DK yarn, but it's a very plump DK. And so I knew I could get gauge of a worsted with it. As I got into it, I realized that I didn't need just 3 skeins. I needed 2 skeins of one color and then 1 skein of the other colors. This was obvious in the testing call. I just missed it. So I had hinted in my dream knitting last episode that I was going to do this, and I had a different color plan than what I ended up doing. And really, that played out the way it did because of my yarn constraints. I needed to buy this yarn, but I bought it this summer, so I needed to buy an extra skein. And so I needed to buy whatever was available. And so I wasn't able to. This is Dune, and this is Berry, and this is Catherine from Western Sky Knits. And I had this in my stash, and I needed 1 more skein for like the main color. And so I needed to just buy what was ever available. And so I was able to buy another skein of this. And so that's sort of changed my color plans a little bit, though I still could have done my original plan, which was these 2 together for the brioche. But I did change my mind, I guess, partway through, or as I started, and I ended up doing Catherine and Berry as the brioche. And so, yeah, I have not been able to put this down, as you can see, because I'm almost done with this. It's due end of February, but I will finish this in plenty of time, and I probably could have finished it already if this was the only thing I was working on. Yeah, so the first section is brioche, and then you switch to what's called like syncopated brioche, where you flip the colors. So you can see Catherine's popping and Berry's behind, and now the Berry pops and Catherine's behind. And that was new for me. I'm not a confidence brioche knitter. This is my 3rd brioche project with 2-color brioche. And I learned some things. I learned new increases, and I learned about this syncopate thing. And so that was really fun. So once I got past the brioche, I was like, I will be fine. I will cruise, and I will not be challenged anymore, and it'll be easy. But what I didn't take into account is I am a very confident colorwork knitter. But all of the colorwork I've ever done has been in the round. Like, I've knit colorwork sweaters, yokes, all in the round. It's not done, but I've steeked a cardigan, colorwork cardigan. That too was knit in the round. It wasn't knit flat because I knit it in the round and I steeked it. And so, like, reflecting on my colorwork life, I've only done it in the round. Well, when you're knitting a shawl, that's flat. So this colorwork here, I had to purl. And I can't think of a better project to learn purling colorwork, because it was only for this little tiny bit right here. I only needed to do it right here, not for like a, huge vest or something like this. And so I got to try it out in this little chunk here, and I felt like that was such a wonderful experience for me to learn purl colorwork, though I didn't notice that when I applied for the test. When I applied for the test, I thought, well, I'll learn some brioche, but I learned more than I thought I would. And I've seen other podcasts where people are like, oh, purling colorwork is just the same as knitting colorwork. It's easy, you're fine. I did not feel that way, to be honest. I didn't know how to hold my yarn. I hold one yarn in my right hand and one in my left, and I throw one of the yarns and I knit continental the other yarn. And so I have that down for knitting, but like purling it felt different. And then the other thing that I was really wondering about is when I'm knitting color work, I think about color dominance, and I know how to do that on the knit side, but I hadn't thought about it for the purl side yet. And so I was trying to find some YouTube videos about it, and I really struggled. And so if you have any suggestions, I'm really interested in like learning more about purling color work. The nice thing about this is it like really helps you understand how little you know about a topic. I think sometimes we can get comfortable and feel like, okay, we know a lot, but there's always more to learn. And that's one of the beautiful things about knitting. And so here I was this confident color work knitter, like put in her place. And I really liked that feeling. And okay, I just keep going on about it. And I need to a little bit more, which is, this is a rustic yarn. I wonder if I have some of the labels here. It doesn't have superwash in it, and I'm obsessed. And I didn't know I would love it as much as I do non-superwash. Okay, so here we go. Let's see if this shows up. I don't know if I'm pronouncing this correct. Bear Ranch Targhee. I'm just so into this yarn. It's so springy and bouncy, though it's like a non-superwash, it's so soft. And then this shawl is like so huge that it like feels like a blanket when I'm knitting it, which since it's been so cold has been like the best thing to knit. Yeah, so I'm almost done. Basically, see how there's this eyelet pattern in the dune? There will be another eyelet pattern. There'll be one stripe of the berry, and then there's a garter border, and then I'm done. And these rows are really long, and my cable's kind of too short now for it. So it is going a little bit slower here at the end than it was in the beginning, but I will finish this. And I'm hoping it'll be cold on the Rosy Yarn Crawl so I can show this off and wear it. There's like knitting is always fun and wonderful and I love it, but there's sometimes these times where it's like the perfect pattern and the perfect yarn and you just feel like it's just so good, and that is this for me. And it just feels magical because I don't normally love knitting shawls so much, but I like, for me, this is so much knitting in 2 weeks, right? Like all of us knit at a different pace, but this is a ton of knitting for me in 2 weeks while working full time, while traveling for work. And that's because I couldn't put it down. I think one night I stayed up on my trip actually till 1 a.m. knitting because I was like, this is so fun. Before I show you my next test knit, I want to show you some yarn that I've had in my collection for a long time. So years ago, I bought this yarn from Oregon Knitting Company, and I mean, they've been closed for several years now. So this is, I've had this for a long time. I bought a sweater's quantity of this ecru yarn, a natural color, undyed. It says it's 100% British wool. It's West Yorkshire spinners. When I purchased it, I imagined doing like an all over cabled sweater, and I never did it. And so last year I got it in my head that I was going to use this yarn paired with a MadTosh Advent, like 12 days of MadTosh. Not from this past year, December of 2022, but December of 2021 that I had received for Christmas. Here's a skein from that. This one's like whiskey rye. So I had envisioned doing a sea glass, and I even bought the pattern. And I was like, I'm gonna do a sea glass. And I was just always hesitating for the sea glass because it's like a whole sweater of 1x1 color work, which looks beautiful, but it takes a special perseverance to do 1x1 color work for an entire sweater. And I wasn't feeling in the mood for it ever really. And so just this idea just sort of like sat around. And then I saw the testing call for this sweater, which is the Heritage Harbor by Samantha Guerin. Here. And it's knit out of a natural wool as well, and it's knit in 2 colors only. But I was just envisioning my natural wool, the cream, and then all different kinds of colors. And so that's what I'm gonna do. So I applied, and I'm really enjoying it. Now, the only con to using my different colors is the way the pattern is designed is you don't have any ends to weave in, like the yarn's carried and there's no ends to weave in. But since I'm changing colors, I do have ends to weave in. All right, so I did a swatch of this, and I was able to get stitch gauge, so that's like how wide your stitches are, which was 18 stitches per 4 inches, but I wasn't able to get row gauge, and I sometimes struggle to get row gauge, like most of the time. And so I emailed the designer, and she said that it was fine because the way the pattern's written is it's a drop shoulder design, and she has you do measurements and write down your rows you're on, so like it'll work out. And so I thought I'd show you where I'm at so far. Basically, you knit the back first, and then you kind of pick up pieces. That's how you do drop shoulder. And it's rolling because I don't have that much knit yet, but you can see it's like there's my stripes and then the texture. And so I brought the next color I'm gonna do so you could see. I'm obsessed. Oh, I love this so much, and I'm so excited that I'm using something for my collection that is like I've had for a long time and I do love, and I like making use of it. So having so much fun with that, and I've wanted to test knit for Samantha Guerin for a while, so this is super fun and I'm really excited to be doing it. I'd love to know your feelings about me mixing fibers, because this is a natural British wool, so not superwash, and this is 100% superwash, and I'm mixing it. So I'd love to know your opinions. Am I making a horrible decision? I think it's gonna be okay. At least I'm hoping so. It's not like a big chunk of superwash, and then you so I'm hoping maybe these fibers will help these ones stay in place. But yeah, I'm really enjoying my kind of natural yarn life right now a lot more than I thought I would. All right, before I tell you about my third test knit, I thought I'm gonna show you a little acquisition. So Chelsea Yarns has a sale kind of every January. At least it feels like it's every January since at least the past 2 Januaries there's been a sale. And I try to pick up things that I can there, because usually it's a really nice discount, and sometimes half off, just clearing out space, I guess. And it's nice yarn. So I've for a long time wanted boucle yarn, and buying a sweater's quantity of boucle yarn, if you're not sure if you like it, can be expensive. And so yeah, buying it at a sale is such a good time. And so I bought this yarn with maybe the plan to knit the sweater that her company has designed called Stay Cozy. And so that was my plan. And then Knitting Ruined My Life put out a testing call for a cardigan called the Plump cardigan. And she designed it to be with the new spin cycle yarn Plump. And so I applied for the test, hoping I could use yarn from my collection. I have this boucle yarn that I could hold with mohair. Maybe that would give me gauge. I also had some piece fleece and some other mohair. So my plan was to, if accepted for the test knit, to try to get gauge in some kind of way without buying a spin cycle. Spin cycle is a really nice yarn. I just it would be nice to use what I have. So I swatched with boucle and mohair together. So you can see the strands of boucle and mohair together. And the coolest thing happened. I got stitch gauge, and I blocked it. And I got stitch gauge, which is how many stitches fit in, how many of these V's fit in 4 inches. And I got row gauge, which is how many V's tall are in 4 inches. And I hardly ever get stitch and row gauge, nonetheless, on the first time. So yeah, my first swatch, I got perfect row and stitch gauge. And obviously the drape of this fabric of boucle and mohair and knit at this gauge is totally different than what a spin cycle drape would be. So I emailed the designer and asked, like, is this okay? And hilarious. Like, she was like, yes. And she had just, like, has another design she's done in this exact combo. And when I say, like, exact combo, like, the exact yarn color, like, the exact Chelsea Yarns boucle and mohair in this exact colorway, which is Chelsea's coupe. And so she sent me a picture of it, and I was like, that's so funny. And that made me even more excited, and I was already excited to knit this. And so I worked on this. So one day I worked on this for the gauge swatch, and then I worked on it one night. So I've only worked on this one night, and I have like this big chunk done. Because it's knit at such a large gauge. Like, it's, I don't know, it might be a similar gauge to this. Basically, it's knit, I don't know. It's knit at a large gauge though. It's knit 12 stitches in 4 inches. And just for perspective, like, my DK is 18 stitches in 4 inches. So like smaller stitches, a lot smaller in 4 inches. So yeah, I knit this just in one night, and it's the back piece. And now this needs to go on holders, and then I'll pick up to do the front panels. And so I'm loving this so much. And if I'm being honest, this is all I want to work on. Like, this, I like want to, like, when I say it's all I want to work on, I don't mean knitting. It's like, I want to do this instead of other things. Like I'm like at work, like thinking about this. So this is really fun. I don't know if this is over ambitious, but like, this test call is due March 11th. So like in a month and a weekish. And the roasting yarn crawl is end of February. And so I just feel like I'm gonna be there on the roasting yarn crawl Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Friday, I'm going with Courtney from Shea Crochet on Instagram. And Saturday, I'm meeting up with some of my local knitting friends. Like, Kyle and I will meet up with some of our local knitting friends. And Matilda, Kyle, Matilda, and I. And then Sunday, my friend Brenda from Texas and I are gonna be yarn crawling. And so I'm gonna be out in about 3 days. So I need 3 knit fits. And so I love like a knitting t-shirt. And so I was thinking, like, how fun would it be to have this cute, fun cardigan and like a knitting t-shirt underneath it for the yarn crawl? Like, that would be amazing. So I want to finish this for the roasting yarn crawl so I can wear it about with a knitting t-shirt. I mean, I do have other cardigans, but it's like fun for a yarn event to have something new. So there's that motivation to get this done quickly. And yeah, so I've got 3 test knits going on. Like decisions were made. What it was actually though, when I applied for both of those test knits, I thought, oh, I'm not gonna get selected to do it. So I'll just pick one. I'll apply to both and hope I get picked for both. And then I got picked for both, and I was like, I can do this. I can do this, and I will do this. And I think I can and will, because like I had an advantage. Like, I already had the yarn. Like, there was no like, I need to go shopping for yarn. Like, I just, as soon as I got it, I got accepted for the call. I just, swatched and got started, and it's been really fun energy. And Welcome to the Sip Sip and Knit segment of the episode. We have a guest here.
Hello.
Why'd you laugh?
I was coerced into this situation.
Yeah, but we're sipping and we're talking about knitting, so it's appropriate. What are you sipping, Kyle?
Some coffee in a caravan mug. You can really see it.
Yeah, that's not dark. Sure I put it all. Yeah.
There's a cool pattern on there. If you're not drinking coffee, you could see it a little better.
My tea's super hot. Mine's Candy Cane Crush from David's Tea in this ceramic mug. That mug was a Christmas gift to Kyle.
Yep.
From one of his favorite coffee roasters. So I thought I'd have you on here, Caravan. I thought I'd have you on here to talk about a finished object that you finished.
It took a little over 14 months.
Indeed. I mean, you didn't work on it for 14 months straight. That's the time span.
Probably worked on it, I don't know, 7 weeks total. Not sure which one is which one is that old. Self-striping yarn. It was an Advent yarn. I don't remember the details of that. Maybe Nicole could
It's Freckled Whimsy. It's Freckled Whimsy from
2021.
2021. Mm-hmm.
And then I just did the one full repeat of the color changes. And then did a Blackfoot. And used a heel flapping gusset heel. First time doing that.
Oh, that was your first time doing that? I didn't realize that.
Yep.
What do you normally do?
A short row of some sort.
Oh. And this yarn, there's so much left over. So now we've got this leftover Advent yarn. Then I knit Advent socks last year. We have leftover yarn. And then I have another Advent socks. And I have that leftover yarn. So we've got a lot of... I mean, there's enough to do a whole pair of socks.
Yeah, if there's at least... Mm-hmm. I mean, if you do the same thing, you could easily get another pair.
Mm-hmm. I want to talk about
I haven't even tried them on yet.
Oh, you haven't? We haven't blocked them. You don't have sock blockers that fit your feet. We only have sock blockers for me.
No, my foot will block them.
Your foot will block them? I've had a lot of people feel that way. So this is the yarn that you used for the foot.
Yep.
You want to talk about it?
I like just the black simple foot.
Mm-hmm.
It's a little bit rustic feel to it, like it's really durable.
So it says Wildfoot, 75% washable wool, 25% nylon. It's from the Brown Sheep Company. Spun and dyed in Mitchell, Nebraska.
Yeah, I like it. I like the feel. Should be good. The only thing that was a little bit weird is as you went, the gauge of the yarn varied quite a bit.
Mm.
From fingering to, I don't know, probably not as light as lace weight, but...
Mm. So it wasn't like this, it wasn't the same thickness all in here?
It seemed like it varied a little bit.
Do you want to show the progress keeper you used? So cute.
Little soft pretzel.
I think this is from Tiddly Bakes, I think. And I think that's where I bought it from you. I could be wrong.
Mm-hmm.
That looks really cute. So you finished a pair of socks.
That was the one I used on the second sock. The first sock was a different one.
Mm.
A little coffee cup.
Yeah, I bought this for Kyle and I'm like, why didn't I buy one of those for me? Because I love pretzels. I should take it from you.
It'll probably happen.
Yeah, so I mean, we have enough for like a whole nother pair of those.
Yep.
I need to start thinking about what I'm going to do. You know, some people use this in a Musselburgh.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, get a pair of socks.
Yep.
Are you going to start another pair of socks, or you think you're just going to take a break from sock knitting? Or do you want to do something else, or have you given it any thought?
I don't know. I haven't really given it much thought. I have at least one, maybe two other pairs of socks going.
Oh, like whips. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. They're older than this, though.
I relate.
One of them is a tube.
Oh, yeah.
That's finished. Needs a heel cut in.
I love cutting in heels, so I'd cut in your heel for you if you finish another tube.
Cast on the second and get that going, maybe.
Yeah.
We'll see. That was Game of Thrones yarn, right?
Yes, that was a self-striping. That was Game of Thrones.
Self-striping tweed.
Looks really cool. All right. I told Kyle I wanted to ask him about books, and you said you didn't want to talk about what you're reading. So we don't have to talk about what you're reading, but can you just tell people what you're reading right now? Like what titles?
Everything sad is untrue.
Everything sad's untrue. I read that book too.
The Truth About Everything.
The Truth About Everything. Is this a young
Truth
adult?
About Everything is like maybe a teen or young adult book.
You got from the library.
Kind of interesting. It has a similar, maybe not. I was thinking it had a similar feel, maybe as Educated.
Oh, I can see that.
Like,
I read the
off the grid type prepper type crowd.
Yeah, I was reading the inside cover of it, and it's interesting. Educated is a memoir, but this is fiction, maybe, or is it? Yeah, so maybe that's the difference. Yeah, and so an Educated, I suppose you could read it at any level, but it's, I think, intended for adults to read. Yeah, and this is like a young adult book, maybe.
Yeah, I think so.
We love our library so much; it's like the best place. It's hard to want to buy, but I mean, you want to buy books and support the authors and things like that. But our library like has everything you could want, and so it's like why? I have a hard time buying books unless I
do a lot of audiobooks through the library also.
You do a lot of audiobooks, but I've noticed lately you've been getting like hard books and like reading because you just finished one. Which one? Do you remember the title of it? I don't remember the title of it.
All right, offhand.
But you just finished another like physical book.
I did.
It also is a young adult book, maybe. I'm trying to convince Kyle to have a Goodreads account. I have a Goodreads account. You can follow me. Kyle reads more than me. So
a lot of audiobooks on my commute.
Yeah. But you do read more than me now, though. Like he's recommending books to me like regularly. But yeah. Occasionally. So Kyle's a very like literal person. Like anytime if let's say I was like, oh, it rained so much this month, Kyle would be like, no, it rained 20.1 days.
Such an exaggeration.
But that's I'm like, you regularly recommend books to me and you're like, I suppose sometimes. Anyway, all right, well, there we go. There we have it. That's our Sip Knit segment with our special guest. Are you going to be a regular on here, Kyle?
No, I don't think I'll be a regular. Surprise guest appearances.
I did surprise him. So here, can I tell the people how I convinced you to get on here? I wanted him to come on here so bad, and I knew that he would say no. And so what I did is one of his socks needed the ends woven.
Yep.
So I wove the ends in.
And the toe Kitchener.
Oh, and the toe Kitchener, yep. And I love doing Kitchener stitch. So I Kitchenered it. And I had already told him a while ago I would Kitchener it for you.
Yeah.
Because I love doing Kitchener. And like it's very satisfying to me. So I Kitchenered the toe together. And then I like went into the office as he's wrapping up work. And I was like, hey, so I weaved in all of your ends for your sock for you.
And I knew exactly what that meant. Happened to be recording earlier in the day. Yeah.
Yeah, so this is so I was like, so now you owe me.
Yeah. I think maybe you just coined Kitchenered.
Kitchenered?
Yeah.
So I think it would be nice to have Kyle on here regularly, but he doesn't want to. So we'll just get him sometimes.
Yeah.
When I weave in his ends.
Some motivation to finish projects, I guess.
Oh!
Oh, goodness.
All right. Well, thanks for watching us and dealing with us. So, for this section, I wasn't sure if it was going to be acquisitions or dream knitting, but I've decided to include it as dream knitting because I've been dreaming about this. I haven't put it away since it came. So though it's an acquisition, it's like I have it sitting on top of my pile of books I like to read so that I have to look at it every time I read. So I've been dreaming about this. So Lily from Merino e Vino, that's her logo, this wine glass with the yarn in it. So I know, I think that's like a traditional like Pinot glass. She reached out to me and she's like, I feel like we should be knitting friends. We have so much in common. And it turns out we have like a ton in common. Like we're both teachers, we'll have young children, both love to read. I assume she loves wine as much as I do, but like it's like that is like one of the reasons why I love like knitting Instagram and YouTube is like the knitting friends. And so she was like, I would love to send you something for your YouTube channel. Some yarn for your YouTube channel. And I was like, oh, that's so nice. And I can't, like, all of us have like a day at work sometimes where we're like, today is not the day. It's not like the best day. And like I came home just feeling like a little down. And there's this package and I opened it up and I didn't realize, I don't know why, but she was like dyeing yarn for me. Like, so these are pinks that she dyed. Like, how thoughtful and sweet. And the name is Professor Purl's Pinks. And when she said she was sending yarn, I just didn't connect the dot that she was like thinking like, oh, I'm going to make her pink yarn that she's going to like. And so that was really sweet. And I love it because it's a tonal. She can really show off texture on a sock. But I love it when you have a tonal with like little speckles. So there's these subtle speckles throughout that are not like black speckles, which you like often see, but it looks like brown speckles. And I just love it so much. And so the reason I'm including this in dream knitting is like as soon as I opened this up, I was like, I want to design a sock. Just seeing it, like it made me want to do this. And I only have 2 sock designs. I have the Selena socks, which are cuffed down texture DK. I designed it with like fingering mohair, but testers also did just like regular DK. And then my other sock pattern was the Read More socks and it's toe up DK. So both are DK. And so this is fingering yarn. It's a 75% merino, 25% nylon. And so I'm excited about that. I have an idea for my first fingering weight sock design. You know, the high test knits are going to take a priority, so I'm not sure exactly what I'm going to cast these on, but between the zebra yarns and this, these are my next socks. So one of these 2 and these are my next socks. And I'm so excited about it. I need to find a balance of my sock knitting with my sweater knitting. That's where I struggle because it's like, I can understand why people exclusively knit socks or only knit sweaters and don't knit socks because it is hard to find a balance between the sock and the sweater knitting. Because it's like when I'm sweater knitting, I want to be more sock knitting. And when I'm sock knitting, I wish I was sweater knitting sometimes. Like I find a hard balance. But what probably works well is or what has worked well for me in the past is that like socks are like my travel knitting for meetings. And like, you know, like recently I was just on an airplane and these are really great. So they're really good for travel. I think the challenge for me lately has been that my need for portable knitting is like decreased because it's like sometimes my meetings are at home on Zoom and so it really doesn't matter if it's a sock or not. And I used to have a lot more in-person meetings than I do, and so that's sort of been a challenge for me. Like socks are my like go-to work knitting, but now it's like I kind of can knit most things. I'm not traveling enough, I guess is what I'm saying. All right, so we are to the personal section of the podcast. So if you're only here for the knitting, thank you for being here. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you liked any of the yarny content. And if you want to hear the personal stuff, that's all it's forward. So yeah, I've only finished one book since we last talked. I read Becoming by Michelle Obama, which has been out for a long time. In fact, she already has another book out, and I want to read that one now. Basically, she came out with another book, and I realized I still hadn't read her other book, Becoming. And my husband, Kyle, had read it, and he had really enjoyed it. And I love Michelle Obama, so I was like, I need to read this book. And so I did. And so good. Just so good. You've probably already read it because it's been out for a while. But if you haven't, if you're like me and you haven't read it yet, like, make time for it. It's worth it. I mean, it's obviously kind of a memoir, but it's also like it's more than that. It also feels like an inspirational book. It also feels like a history, like you're getting some American history in there too. It's just, she's a queen. She's so good. And like, she's so humble and down to earth. Like when you're reading the book, it's like, she feels like she could be your best friend. Like she's just so humble and down to earth, yet simultaneously so inspiring and powerful and just, oh, okay. So, I mean, if you're not gonna, like for me, like I don't have a lot of reading time for recreational books with like my job. Like we read a lot as a professor, but it's not always like what we want to read, like for fun. And so it's really just a really special moment when you like don't have a lot of reading time and the book you chose is like so good. So yeah, 5 out of 5 stars. So good. And you know, just like I have like 5 whips going at a time, I'm the same way with books. I just read lots of books at a time. So I'm literally reading 4 books right now. And I'm not even going to talk about them. I'll tell you about them when I finish them. So what else? Oh, so since I last recorded, you know, like I had to travel for work and whatever, but we still had fun in between there before I left and when I returned. And so yeah, I would say like the 2 highlights since I last recorded are that Kyle, Matilda, and I went hiking on 2 different hikes. So one of the hikes we did in celebration of Kyle's birthday, which was Silver Falls State Park. And it's a little bit of a drive from where I live, but it's like worth it. I think a lot of people when they visit the Pacific Northwest, they go to Multnomah Falls for a hike, and that is a good hike and you should do it. But also, I feel like Silver Falls is underrated and worth the drive because there's at least 12 or more. There's at least 12 marked waterfalls. And if you go in the winter, there's even more. In the summer, less. But yeah, so it has lots of loops. And so you can pick the type of hike you want. You can do like 9 miles. You can do 4 miles. I think there might even be an option to do a 1 mile. I don't know. I think so. I think you could just like walk out to one of the waterfalls and walk back. So good. And Matilda loves a gift shop. And so they like have their gift shop's been closed for like, since like the pandemic. And it's reopened and it's revitalized. There's lots of fun things in it. So Matilda loves to hike, but she also loves a gift shop. So it was like the perfect combo for her. Going in the winter, the waterfalls are like powerful. Like we got wet. So maybe next time I'd make sure that we had like waterproof jackets on. We made good choices for Matilda for shoes. She actually wore her like winter boots out, and that was like a very good choice because there was huge puddles and they were waterproof and they were tall. Yeah, it was so fun. And then afterwards there's a town, maybe I'm trying to think, maybe it's called Silverton or maybe it's Mount Angel. I don't know, but we went out for like German food and that was really fun. And then last week we did a really short hike, and it's nearby. It's called Chehalem Ridge, and it is one of these hikes that's just really nice because it's like super accessible to like lots of people. Like people with horses can go out. If you had a wheelchair, there's parts of it that are paved. You could get out on that, and I love that. And on a sunny day, you can see 3 mountains. So we like at the viewpoint. So we got to the viewpoint and we saw, it was frigid this weekend, like so cold. We were like all bundled up. But when we got out there, it was sunny, and we saw Mount St. Helens, Mount Adams, and Mount Hood. Matilda doesn't call it Mount Hood, she calls it Mountain Hood. So I think that's really cute. Yeah, so, I've been enjoying that. In January, we were able to get outside still, and we didn't let the cold weather get us down. We enjoyed the outdoors still. And that sort of inspired me to start. If you follow me on Instagram, I started using a hashtag, hand knits and hikes, just because I just feel like it's been fun to be outdoors and enjoy like these, when you're cold, these like hand knitted items. And so if you like hiking and you like hand knits, you should tag me, or you should use the hashtag so I can see your hand knits and hikes. I feel like on like knitwear that gets the most use on hikes would be obviously hats, and also like hand knit socks. I got a really cute picture of Matilda and Kyle together on a tree stump. So the Chehalem Ridge was like donated by, I don't know if this is true. I think it was donated from a family who used to have like a tree farm. So there's like all these stumps, like lots of tree stumps. And so Matilda loves to climb on the tree stumps. And so I got this really cute picture of Kyle and Matilda like both standing on a tree stump wearing their favorite hats. And so and both their favorite hats were actually knit by my mom. So Matilda is wearing a hat called the Rusco Beanie. She loves it. My mom knit it for her 2 Christmases ago, and it's well loved. And it actually has a pom-pom from the Grocery Girls on it. And then Kyle, for his birthday, my mom knit him very quickly a Musselburgh hat, and it's a very nice hat. And yeah, so they were both wearing those on the hike, and so I put that on Instagram. Yeah, that's pretty much it. There's not a lot going on. It is the end of the 4th week of the semester, so we've had a month of the spring semester, even though it's like winter at the beginning. And I'm just really loving my classes. So that's something that I feel really like blessed and joyful about, is my students are just the best. And so I've been really, really enjoying my classes, and that's really nice to be like, I think in all aspects of our job, sometimes things can be hard, but I think it's nice to like just really treasure maybe like the most important part of my job, which is the teaching my students part. So yeah, so that's pretty much everything that's going on. And thanks so much for watching. I really appreciate all the friends that I have here and every comment. I love reading them, and I try to reply to every single person. So thanks so much. Yeah, have a great February. See you soon. Bye.
What's the reason?